Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the overview. Today we're going to be reviewing the altars. So I don't want to beat around the bush and no one likes bad news, so let's just do a silver bullet. I'm doing an unconventional ranking review score system. It's essentially a rank from 1 to 100. We're filling the list out from 100 down. It's dynamic, it can change, we don't want to get too bogged down into it, but I'm telling you now that the altars is going to get 74% on my ranking scale, which is to say the lowest scored game that I have played this year. Yep, to date, this is the worst game that I have played, worse than Avowed, who held that crown, if you could call it. This might come as a bit of a shock to many. It did to me as well. I'm a huge 11-bit fan. I've celebrated for many years how they don't really do like sequels. They do some really innovative stuff going way back to This War of Mine, which you may even see a bit of that in this game. But Frostpunk's probably one of their biggest standouts, but even things like Moonlighter I really enjoyed. And that's when they went into more of a space where they became a publishing house. They started to bring on other devs, doing other things. A few red flags in some of those releases. There was kind of call it a yellow flag in Frostpunk 2, actually, which in the end was still a good game, but arguably wasn't really Frostpunk. It was more of a politics simulator. And I think a lot of Frostpunk fans, if you put it to them, hey, would you rather go back and replay Frostpunk 1 again or Frostpunk 2? Most people are going to boot up the original first. I know I would. I'd grind out achievements on a hard difficulty before I'd go back to 2. So 11-bit, while celebrated by me, have been on this slippery trajectory, and it never really stood front and foremost in my mind until this game. Kind of all the Swiss cheese coming together, the puzzle pieces falling into place. And look, we'll get into it. I'll take the time to explain the loop and all that, but full disclosure, I stopped playing this. I put it down at, Steam says 13.2 hours. And I usually, go until I clock it or I hit 18. 18's my soft cap because that's the average time to beat a game. But I've actually put this down, which is a big deal, by the way, because it goes beyond being a bad game to a captured audience, browbeating, time-wasting, lecturing simulator. And this all culminated, I'll put the back end first. Let's lead with why I put it down, in that I got put on a busy work side quest. Well, it's not really a side quest, it's a quest for one of your altars. It's essentially their companion quest, if you think of something like Mass Effect or whatever. So you could argue they're side quests, but they're very much a main feature for that character. One of my altars turned out to be a sort of security guard con man type dude. There was a food thief in my base. I had probably 6-7 altars. I don't know if you include myself as well. And again, we'll come back, but I just thought, let's not bury this. If I'm going to tell you I stopped playing the game, I should explain why. This dude had me set up and build a part of the base like as a security desk to watch the food thief and try and catch him, and sequentially we went through every single crew member as he came up with these reasons. Oh, I saw this dude there, or I could smell this guy or whatever, and it plays out and it wastes your time, and time is a huge commodity in this game. It's it is about busy work and management and racing the sun, quite literally. So this dude went through like every single crew member till we finally came to the conclusion that was becoming apparent that he was stealing the food, and it was all a test to test me and make sure that I am shrewd in my decision making and all that. And at that point, I said, fuck this game and fuck these developers. Because here's the relationship on a meta level. I give you money to dance for me, you dancing clown, artist type person. Much like I make these videos for people. I would argue that there's value in my videos because people figure out whether to spend their money or not, but I still fall into that entertainment space, and I know exactly where I sit on the rungs of society in this role, and that's very low. The Romans had the actors and all that down with the whores, and that's where the entertainers should be as well. We are there as supplemental to people that actually matter in society. So when I give you money to entertain me, you do that. You dance, little clown. You do not hold me hostage time and time and again to one-way lecture me about your philosophical writing techniques, which is something that really unsubtly happens throughout the whole thing. It really does feel like a one-way lecture in almost every dialogue interaction. But when it culminates in that you actually engineer entire quest lines designed to waste my time, my footwork, my attention, all to prove some clever point for a writer that thinks he's clever. No, you can go blow chunks, mate. And so yes, I'm a little cross and I don't often get that way. Do not get this game. Do not support this game. 11-bit has been on a bad trajectory. This is not the spiritual successor to This War of Mine, because you see the side-scrolling ant colony and a bit of management. Rather, it is the new guard of developers, or the awoken old guard. We've kind of talked about this before. They're being brave enough to put their personal innermost feelings into their products, and a lot of people are slapping them on the wrist. Woke is a term that gets thrown around quite a bit. I think it's a dirty word that doesn't really mean much. But generally speaking, and to reiterate the rule, this game exists for my entertainment and yours, and I'm not really interested in being lectured by these sheltered Silicon Valley soy people that, you know, the hardest tribulation ever is Starbucks got their coffee order wrong, as opposed to people that have actually had hard labor, tribulations, and like real life experience. Okay, bit of a rant out of the way. I'm obviously upset, and that's why I put it down as the specific anecdote that the straw that broke the camel's proverbial. Let's work our way back. The Alters is 11-bit Studios' newest game. It's internally developed, it's a core product. So it should be a big deal. I touched on it just then. It very much does feel like junior successors trying to emulate. It's a skin suit version of something like This War of Mine, trying to recapture the lightning of your predecessors. The way it manifests, though, is a mess. It's kind of just not fun to play. I will say, like, I've enjoyed all the art style. I think it's really quite beautiful. All of that aesthetic is wonderful. I like the music. It's a very strange, synth-heavy, you know, grungy, a lot of syncopation in there as well. It's really quite lovely. But at its core, it still has to be a fun game. And it's sort of trying to ride this line between being a management-type sim game and being, I guess, casual, accessible. Also, I suspect it's supposed to be kind of run-based or something, and this is what I've got to go on, because I haven't failed, I haven't died or lost anything. I've managed to spin the plates. Like, for all its sort of unintentional complexity, I've kind of broken the game. I've figured out how to play it. I would say if you're someone that's into management type colony sims, you will also similarly solve this quite quick. It's not tricky like something like This War of Mine, for example. Like if you wanted to do a difficulty comparison, I don't find this particularly difficult. I do find it intentionally obtuse and the system's not to be that great, but I can overcome it because I like these sort of games traditionally. But to touch on the roguelike replayability stuff, the game only saves at the beginning of a day. You go to sleep, you start the new day, and for whatever reason, life gets in the way. I've had to, stop playing and go back to the beginning of the day. I might have had to put the washing out or answer the door or something, right? And so it warned me that, this game's difficult and you're going to retry stuff. So I got this splash because of that, and it highlights dialogue that you've already chosen with someone so that maybe you can try different options and, multiple playthrough mentality. And so that's the only really hint that I got from it. So it'd be really fascinating to see how it goes when it hits the street so I'd start playing back through the first 5 minutes of a day where I spoke to someone and the thing was highlighted because the autosave remembered it or something like that. Interesting that it can remember my dialogue option but not save my progress to that point and still make me go back to the beginning of the day. Anyway, I make this point because it feels like that's what they're trying to make, some sort of tough high fail condition replayable thing, but I never really found it that tough. And I feel like this is how it's going to go when it hits the street. People like me, and maybe you if you've been around the channel, that enjoy these kind of games, these more hardcore sim type, colony management things, are going to breeze through it. They're not going to hit a hitch. They're not going to have a problem at all. The game tries to spin lots of plates and stress you out, but generally speaking, I was unfazed. But I also feel like that it's going for that mainy appeal, and it is getting a little bit of uptick in mainstream, seems thumbstick friendly, that sort of thing. And I feel like the more normies that are going to play this that aren't so familiar with ant farm management, logistics chains, that sort of stuff, might actually get frustrated and start failing and losing against it. So that's my prediction. It is all a bit speculative, but I feel like the balance is way off, or there's something going on there. And I almost feel like there's a sort of gameplay, almost roguelike replayability, retry and fail component to this game that I haven't seen, because I'm not going to fucking play it anymore, but also because it was never hard enough to really test me. Anyway, like I said, aesthetic, it's really pretty. Gameplay, it's a mess. It's all over the place. The broad setting is that you're this crashed astronaut on this MacGuffin quest for this crap called Rupidium. And before long, you find yourself at this base. The only way out of the situation, and it's almost laughable, is like one guy has to press the go button and another guy has to flick a switch in another room. And the answer is to use this magic MacGuffin material, Rupidium, to clone yourself in a slightly different life path, they call. And again, this got me in the door. All this stuff seems really interesting and clever, but the more time you spend with it, the more shallow and just messy it becomes. So it's not like there's some infinite thing you can draw from. It's not like there's 100 different Jan types, which is kind of what I would have liked, right? What it is very much a kind of visual novel adjacent on rails narrative in disguise. There are X dudes that you can clone off. At the point where I've stopped, there's still a few more that I could do, and I don't know if you can do them all in one run. That's not super clear, but they are very set in stone. So you clone off these dudes, and then you have very limited automation and slotting with them. So within your base, you build out these buildings, and again, this modular big circle design, it looks really cool in video and on YouTube, but it is a pain in the ass managing this base. It's so frustrating because you'll have to size it up and move it around and manage the weight to it, because when you leave the location you're in, essentially scenarios are the base is stopped because of contrived scenario. You're stuck at a gravity well, or there's a bridge needs to be built, and so you'll have to stay in that location for a couple of weeks of game time to fix the problem, and then you pay like a premium in fuel to move the base. So you have to manage essentially that, but it's not complex. Like, you just keep building your base up. But then the space management and the modularity of it, which seems cool at first, until you realize that each time you remap and move the base around, you kind of have to radically change your base to fit everything in. There's a fixed square like in the off center of your base with fluid in it, right? I don't even know what it is, because there's a rupidium storage which is separate. That might be just the organics storage, it's not clear. But like working and building around that with lifts, and everything has to be accessible, you'll find yourself for like half an hour trying to Tetris block your base back together in any semblance or recognizable way of what it was previously. And then until you do that remap again, trying to squeeze in and get X out of your base, you're now going to lose any navigation or familiarity with your base that you might have had. Again, compare it to like this War of Mine, where the rooms are fixed, the house is fixed. And yeah, you'll build beds over here, or you'll build a stove over there, but there becomes a familiarity. This is base building 101 in that, come home. I've been playing bloody Dune Awakening. I come home, I go on the front door, left is my storage over there, right's where I put my fuel, that sort of thing. You go into a rhythm, there's familiarity. It's so weird that I have to explain this because everyone understands this without even talking about it. And so yes, you have to scale your base up, and yes, it's designed to make it so you get fucked around and move your lift and all that. And then you're gonna spend your entire time when you're navigating your base zipping in and out of the bloody map, trying to figure out, where's the captain's cabin so I can go to sleep before I run out of time. Where's the communication sync to take a mission forward? Where's the dormitory because old mate's having a fucking sook or whatever and I need to go have a talk with him? And it stutters and it doesn't perform very well. And, I played Roadcraft recently and it was mind-blowing, phenomenal how good the drone zoom in and out worked with that. It was actually wild. And then playing this, where the game design inadvertently forces me to keep zooming in and out of the map because my base is unfamiliar every time I touch it, is infuriating. Anyway, you build the base out. You add more buildings, a workshop or a refinery or a greenhouse. And you can tell your dudes to work there, during their work hours, and they'll do the basic work. There's a very cool and kind of wasted mechanic where you can do stuff yourself. You just hold down a button and it speeds up the clock. Arguably, if you're doing that, you're playing the game wrong, much like handcrafting in Satisfactory. You should outsource automation as much as you can. And it is one of those things, it's trying to channel not enough fingers for all the holes, too many plates to spin, not enough attention. So there'll be different mining outposts and different, refineries or kitchen work that needs doing, and you're not going to have enough dudes at any given time. But the way that it actually manifests is it creates a lot of boring, busy work, specifically metagamed to tie up your dudes. So there'll be base maintenance, which will just keep them busy and you have to keep building repair kits, clearing the queue on something like a workshop or a kitchen, to the point where you essentially have permanent dudes in the greenhouse growing food and, making food in the kitchen. All right, well, there goes a couple of your automated pawns straight out the door that don't really contribute anything or you interact with in any way. So it becomes actually very mundane and repetitive. And your loop for you is exploring this instanced map with very rudimentary, navigating up and down things with zip lines, and you come up against these anomaly baddies, and that's the closest thing to combat or anything like that, and you pretty much have to shine your bloody flashlight on them until they pop, and they infuriatingly just become more and more dense. The answer to more adversity as the game goes on is just keep spawning more of them. There'll be a storm event after a week or whatever, and there'll be more of them, and they drain your battery power, and it's not fun. So much of the mechanics of this game are engineered to waste your time because the time thing is the entire hook. It's the resource that you have. So instead of making interesting loops, it's more about how do we waste your time because time is the premium. So you explore the map, you build out these outposts, and you run like a power cable back to your base, and that's it. That's as complicated as the infrastructure gets. You send dudes off to mine, and you spend those resources to build out the base. And all the while through this, Jesus, I don't want to talk about this fucking game anymore. Anyway, let's continue. All the while, you're constantly cloning the most. If I were someone that would be offended by stereotypes, I would find this offensive. And this is going to be fascinating, how people rally around or fight this, given their political leanings, I suppose you could say. But this game's idea of subtlety is hitting you with a sledgehammer. And I can't help but think of the movie Moon by Duncan Jones. And that's, without giving too much of the way, you should watch that, by the way. It's excellent, and it's clearly an inspiration for this game. But the idea is that a dude essentially gets cloned and he has to deal with two versions of himself. One that's kind of been beaten down from years of posting, and the other one's kind of brash and angry, the whole reason he went on the posting. And so they have some dynamism between them, but it's still fairly subtle, right? Like those extremes I explained are probably the main differences between the same guy. In this game, they stereotype your spin-offs so incredibly hard that it's hard not to just fucking laugh. Though the game plays it very straight, and this is a clear example. Writers can only write a character up to and including their personal intelligence level or even their emotional quotient, right? And it is kind of mask off for the writer's room of this game that they just see the world as fucking hard stereotypes. And I was half expecting the next clone of mine to come out as trans or blackface or even female, because we got a gay one That one's going to blow people's minds. And my dude questioned him going, how come you're gay in your life path and I'm not? I'm married and divorced or whatever it is without going into the story too much. And immediately gaslights you. Oh no, you've had crushes on dudes before. And okay, well that must explain why the other bloody 7 dudes are all straight and some of them got married and etc. Right. So this is going to open a can of worms that I don't think the writers are ready for of, are you born gay? Or is it because of your life choices? Because that is going to make a lot of people's heads spin. A lot of people will not like that decision. But on top of that, like less obvious examples, your dude's got a pretty basic accent, right? I don't know if he's got a Slavic background or something like that, but you've got the surfer guy who literally is, yo, dude, bro, I worked on an oil rig. It's unbelievable. It's like, okay, right, I get that we pick up accents a little bit over time, but this is wild. The security bouncer guy is like, hey, I'm walking here. He's as Brooklyn as they get. We're with you, Spider-Man. It's so bad. Then you've got the botanist. Oh my god, don't even get me started on that one. He sounds like the Swedish chef. Oh, okay, guys, I think I'm gonna talk like that. Like, seriously, with head injury, mentally retarded area. Like, I was almost waiting for them to say that, yeah, something went wrong in his clone and he took a blow to the head and that's why he talks like he's demented. Not to mention that he is cuck as anything. Like, his life path was curling up in a ball, giving up on his career, and instead of getting divorced from his wife, just becoming like literally a bit of a cuck. Stay at home, not even dad or anything, just follow her around while she becomes this corporate super mummy. Like, oh my god, you are not ready for this game. So yeah, he's the voice of cuckery more than the rest, but the others are all, I keep using that word, but it is so clear, this is men written by Silicon Valley soy men. And you know what? We don't see that very often. We see it as women usually. They girl boss, they can't be wrong. This modern woman interpretation that's sort of wearing people out a bit, that is not representative of like real women in general. Well, this is their attempt to make a relatable man by showing their hand and exposing that this Jan character, Jan Dolski, that is cloned multiple times, is an insecure, feelings-heavy, soft loser that would never pass muster to go on this trip in the first place. And even the hard versions of him all have various exaggerated coal miner, blue-collar accents. It's not just the Brooklyn one. You've got the miner and all this sort of stuff as well, the technician. And what they are caricatures. They're caricatures of real, actual working-class blue-collar people as seen through the lens or contact lenses or 12-inch thick Coke bottle glasses of these balding soy fat game developers. Anyway, I'm working myself up. I am usually the picture of composure. Truly I am. But the gameplay is thin. Most of it is busy work. The best way to manage your dudes, if you make it this far and you play it and you want a tip, the best way to manage them, and I shit you not, is at the beginning of every day, you unslot them from every possible job that they can do, and then you just go about doing whatever you're doing, and they will radio prompt you and basically go, hey, I'm free, do you want me to do this? And they'll all do it at the same time as soon as clock on happens at 10 o'clock or whatever it is, because of course they clock on at 10. And you just go, yep, you do that job, because they'll pick out the important jobs and then they'll finish them and go on to the next one. As opposed to the game tricking you into thinking you need to actually pay attention to what everyone's doing. No, you just let them volunteer for jobs and give them the jobs that they volunteer for, and you will never run into radiation or starvation or any sort of unhappiness. The game breaks immediately as soon as you just let it run itself. And I'll close out my point as well. You're talking to home base on the radio as well, and it's a bit of a shame to see Geralt's voice actor in there with the same thing. Characters that use their interaction with you as a chance to lecture you. Much like all your clones will lecture you about incredibly unsubtly the stereotypical ginormous elephant in the room difference between you and them in their life path, and it's so not subtle and frustrating. I can't even be bothered going into more examples. But the same happens talking to the dudes back home. You've got this Geralt dude who's like the CEO of the company running this whole experiment, and they're trying to wax philosophical, but it's done couched in the position of someone with a small head. And they're just trying to tell you how clever what they think is about, quantum qubits and that sort of stuff, but it just doesn't really come across very intellectually lofty or stimulating. It's a one-way lecture from the dumbest guy in the room that's discovered philosophy. And that manifests in this Lucas character as well, this bumbling tech assistant that's trying to channel some sort of charm, and it just does not work at all. And the same thing, they're trying to lecture you about the state of the world and how Rapidium can save it and blah, 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 and you're captured and you sit there and Spacebar becomes your best friend. Anyway, I think it's probably safe to say Scarlett doesn't like this. So yeah, how disappointing. Worst game of the year so far. Worse than Avowed? Probably. Avowed's big crime was Marvel characters, everyone's a smartass, which kind of has a little bit of overlap with, the same sort of people writing in this game as well. But at least that gameplay, as thin as it was and as static the world was, I'd go back and play it. I've thought about going back and putting more hours into it, give it a bit more of a fair go. But not this, not really. The beta traction is managing your multiple dudes, which immediately you can crack if you've ever done anything like this before. And the real loop is this third person adjacent walking sim thing, running around zapping things with your torchlight and climbing up zip lines with your little bat gadget. If I talk any more about this, my head's going to explode. I think you got the point. And I think I've been thorough and concise, a bit spicy, true, but I haven't just said this game sucks full stop. I've taken the time to explain what's wrong with it. I hope that was helpful. Questions, feedback, let me know. Otherwise, I might just leave it there for the time being and I'll catch you guys on the next one.